Screaming, crying children abandoned at the border by smugglers, migrants who died trying to make the journey, others injured, stranded, left to fend for themselves in these really harsh conditions. And now this terrifying new development, 2 Border Patrol agents exchanging gunfire with suspected cartel members along the U.S.-Mexico border in Texas. The agents, fortunately, were not injured, but the FBI is investigating this incident. Let's discuss all of this with former Acting ICE Director Tom Homan. Tom, the border crisis created by the Biden administration, it just keeps getting worse. And I don't say this lightly or make a joke here, but it almost sounds like the Wild West down there.
No, it's going to get worse. I mean, it's going to get worse. When Title 42 ends, which they're getting real close to doing, when the Title 42 ends, and all single adults are going to be rushing that border and trying to get in the United States. And you know, if you look at past data from the Border Patrol, on average, every year, about 20 to 23% of all illegal alien border crossers are convicted criminals. So there's going to be more criminals, more drugs, more people come across the border. The worst is yet to come.
We look at the wall, and there were many people in this country that were for the wall. They think that walls help, that they deter this kind of activity. $2 billion still sitting there in a bank waiting to finish the wall, and President Biden won't allow it to happen.
But it's another example that President Biden, this administration, doesn't want to secure the border. Look, they're bragging right now on how quick they can release people so there's no overcrowding Border Patrol facilities. They call that a win. We're releasing people quicker, faster, which is just going to blow up in their face, because that's just going to entice more people to come, but they think they're not being detained very long, just being released in the United States at taxpayer expense, mind you.
Right.
And look, all the Biden administration needs to do is talk to a Border Patrol agent. Look at the data. Walls work. Every place they built a wall, illegal immigrations went down, illegal drug flow went down. Every place, 100% of the time. So if they really want to secure the border and live up to what they say they want to secure the border, then a border wall makes sense.
Wow.
But I bet you right now the Secretary has never asked a single Border Patrol agent about the wall, because they simply don't want to do it, because they call that Trump's wall.
Right. And walls do work if that's your objective, to deter people from trying to illegally cross the border and to deter all this activity. But there is a school of thought out there saying the reason that Kamala Harris has not taken any action to do anything about this is because the agenda, the administration has a very specific, sort of agenda item here. And the more that they allow this to happen, the better it is for the narrative and the agenda that they're trying to push. And that comes to changing voting demographics.
Absolutely, because you got to remember that what also the Biden administration done, they overturned the Trump census rule, which means all these thousands of people being released, they will be counted in the next census. They'll go to sanctuary cities to be counted, which means more seats in the House for the Democrats, which leads to electoral college, which leads to perpetual power. And if they get amnesty, they eventually become citizens. The Democrats are playing a long game here, and they look at all these people as future Democratic voters. They have no intention to secure the border. This is an open borders agenda. This is their plan. This is their design. Kamala Harris is going to secure this border. Remember, she supports sanctuary cities. She compared ICE agents to KKK. She said Border Patrol agents were inhumane to those crossing the border. She wrote legislation as a senator to reward those who cross the border illegally. She has no intention, just like the president and just like the secretary, to secure our border. If they want to secure the border, first move, build a wall. Where's everybody crossing right now, where there's not a wall?
I want to talk to you about some of the numbers so our viewers can have a sense of what's happening here. 111,000 single adult migrants were taken into custody in April. It was the highest total that we've seen in more than a decade. And I always underscore when I'm communicating that point to people that those are the migrants we caught, not the ones who got across that were not apprehended by the system. So you have to realize the magnitude here.
Yeah, the Border Patrol intelligence bulletins clearly say between 1,000 and 1,500 escape apprehension every day. Yeah. And that's one thing we'd be worried about. The families and the children that turn themselves over to Border Patrol, they want to be caught. They turn themselves over to Border Patrol. But the cartels will push large family groups to tie the Border Patrol resources up so the cartels can move the bad people, the ones that don't want to get arrested, to the unguarded portions. That's where your fentanyl comes from. Remember, during the last family crisis, over 62,000 Americans died from fentanyl overdoses that came across that border. The cartels control that border. They use the humanitarian crisis to create a national security crisis.
It's a huge problem, and for the states that share that border, they're looking for, what could have been a real happy summer as we got out of the pandemic. It could